All right, music lovers, thanks for joining us for another Spin That Shit podcast interview with Nick Shoulders out of Razorback country down south. Nick is a very talented individual. I'm glad he took the time and sat down to talk with Garrett and I. It was a blast, even though technology can be a bummer. But hey, that's what we got to do right now in these crazy times. So, looking forward to that. Support him. His new album is OK Crawdad. You can stream it. He'll have stuff up to buy in the future. So check his stuff out online. And also look us up and share, like, subscribe, do anything you can to help us grow this channel. We're on YouTube, of course, Facebook and Instagram, and we appreciate all the feedback we've been getting in the comments. So check us out. All right, dive into the interview. We're rolling.
All that beautiful bean footage.
All right, we got a special guest today, Nick Shoulders, a.k.a. I like to call you the yodeling crawdad.
I'll take it. Yeah, that crawdad thing got passed around a little bit since the album's come out, and no one's really sure where it came from, and I don't really know either. So
really,
hate to burst anyone's bubble, but yeah, that's just kind of been out in the ether.
Man, I thought it was your real name.
Well, my real name actually is Shoulders. That's the problem. It's not even that I had to come up with a stage name. Is my internet working?
I can hear it.
We got you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it said it was unstable. Let's hope it doesn't say that way.
Yeah. Well,
it's not the only one.
Thanks for joining us, man. I wish we could have done this in person, because that's normally what we'll try to do in the future. So, but
doing the best with what we got.
Right. So we got some questions for you, and I'm glad you have a guitar in your hand because we definitely want to see you play some, jam some.
Well, it got mentioned. I'd hate to let anybody down.
Right, exactly. Can you just give us a little a background of how you kind of got started in music and, where your roots are and why you kind of fell in love with the whole process?
Sure. Yeah, I'm from Central Arkansas originally. Grew up west of Little Rock out in the Ouachita foothills and moved up to the Ozarks when I was pretty young. So I kind of got enamored with like Arkansas natural science and ecology and stuff, and was a real nature nerd. And my grandparents and great-grandparents and extended family like did deep South gospel singing stuff, and my dad's a good whistler. So I kind of picked up these novel skills of kind of interacting with rural Arkansas as a kid and having this family that sang. But I just wanted to be in metal bands. I just wanted to be in sketchy, loud stuff that like scared people. So I just played that sort of stuff pretty much into my 20s and did like whistling and yodels on the side. But I didn't play guitar or write country songs or anything. I just listened to a lot of country music and weird old music. And eventually I started traveling and busking, and I kind of found this scene of folks that were playing like American traditional country. And I was like, well, this is all pretty clever and like true to the source material, and this is what I want to be doing. And these folks are all kind of like trying to sing like my grandpa. Sorry, there's damn flies everywhere. But so I kind of stumbled into this greater grandpa music scene, and I was like, well, I got something to say. I'd like to do this. So that's about 3 or 4 years ago. I started writing songs on the guitar and doing the sort of shit I grew up hearing, So it's kind of cool to have like been able to go for full circle, because I didn't have to get stuck doing this against my will as a kid or anything. Like there wasn't a lot of music in the home. So music's always been a joy for me and kind of a thing on the side as opposed to something that got pushed on me. So that's good, I think.
That's awesome.
So help me not lose any interest, I guess.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that because growing up all through high school and even before that, I was listening to some heavy stuff, some death metal, and dude, mosh pit galore, whatever. Yeah. Punk rock. Was in a couple punk rock bands in high school and all that good stuff. And somehow I'm with you now. I'm listening to old country music.
Well, I've got a theory about all of it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I hear some gang vocals in After Hours, I think, and you got some tempo changes in some other songs that reminded me of sort of that heavier stuff, which was great.
Totally. And I mean, it's a wonder I still have a voice, because I used to just, I think that part of what separates like heartland music, whether it's South, Midwest, West, whatever you want to call it, just that people feel more disenfranchised and they're more pissed off. So the pissed off music you hear from those places, like especially angry, like, Arkansas hardcore and thrash, the stuff that we were around was it was so angry. It was so pissed off. And so I think that same sort of disenfranchisement carries into like traditional country and stuff, because people had it hard, and you know, those are like comes from places of great suffering. So I think that like sort of understanding of bad things is really it's not that big of a jump between heavy music and traditional country and stuff.
Right.
And I think people just realize at a certain point that they want to be involved with music. But you know, the heavy stuff, the punk and the metal, the things I wanted, it was mostly kind of coastally aspirational. I wanted to be like things I was seeing on the internet or on TV. And it was coming mostly from the East and West Coast. And then eventually realized, like, you know, this part of the country that I'm from has this endemic music to it. It has something that's from it that I should participate in. And it doesn't hurt your neck, and it doesn't leave you hoarse and do all that stuff. So I think people just, they have it in their background, and they eventually are just like, well, I'd rather like pursue that than get stuck, you know, having a headache for the rest of my life, basically. So I miss playing in heavy bands, but, you know,
Right.
I think the grandpa music's more sustainable, you know, bodily and all around.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I could tell, like, just listening to your music and reading articles and searching into your background and stuff, that you're just totally passionate about music and the history of it and where it comes from. So that's one of the reasons why I was like, we got to talk to this guy for sure.
Well, I'm glad y'all had me on. I mean, yeah, I feel like a damn substitute history teacher or something with this stuff. You know, I can't shut up. I think of music kind of like archaeology, so it lent me to kind of treating it like that. And sometimes I realize, like, I don't know if people want to hear what I'm saying or like care at all. So I'm glad y'all.
Yes, keep doing it, please. That's funny because, like, that's how I got started, really, is because my grandpa was playing Johnny Cash on the radio when I was younger. But at that time, I wasn't really listening to any music. In fact, when I started into music, it was more like rap music. Then it's turned into that new metal, into, you know, on down the line. But because of what he was listening to, I wanted to keep going further, back beyond Johnny. And that's when I fell in love with Jimmy Rogers. And you have a reference to the Blue Yodel on one of your albums. And I was just like, yes, this guy gets it, you know?
Well, I'm glad to, you know, to hit that nerve for people, because that's something that I've always wanted out of kind of the newer traditional country, is like to be just traditional enough to like obviously be well versed in the source material, but not just carbon copy, you know? And
Right.
there's plenty of people that are so good at that. I've been in those bands. I've, like, you know, by busking, you kind of have to play the hits. Like if you're playing street corners and stuff, not everyone's going to want to hear your heady original about your problems. You know, they want to hear a Jimmy Rogers tune or something. So yeah, I know that stuff up and down. And I love it when people who are also fans appreciate that I'm trying to bring to it, because it's, you know, it's not that hard, but it's also really difficult to find what those old dudes are doing and how they did it, because it's fantastic stuff. Like the virtuosity, and if someone like Jimmy Rogers can't be overstated. Like that dude's so good at what he does.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, you mind playing one for us real quick before we talk more?
Sure. Any requests out there in Radioland?
What do you got? Something, Garrett, you want to hear?
I really like No Fun if it's easy to play. It's got
Oh yeah, I can pull that off. Yeah, that's, I mean, you know, we're talking about punky influences in our grandpa music. I thought this was a pretty good nod. So I play in a dance scene in New Orleans. You know, it's like a lot of shows where everybody's gonna be dancing the whole time. And I was like, God, we got to put a surf number in there. And I just kind of started thumbing around on this, and I was like, oh crap, we're doing that. We're totally playing a Niggy and the Stooges song. So yeah, let's do No Fun. No fun, my baby, no fun. Well, no fun, my baby, no fun. No fun to be alone, standing by myself. No fun to be alone in love with nobody else. no fun, my baby, no fun. Well, no fun, my baby, no fun. No fun to hang around, be that same old way. No fun to hang around, freak out for another day. Oh, maybe go out, maybe stay at home, maybe call mama on the telephone. Come on, come on, come on. Oh, no fun, my baby, no fun. Oh, no fun, my baby, no fun. No fun to hang around, standing by myself. No fun to be alone, in love with nobody else. Well, no fun. Well, no fun. Well, no fun. Well, no fun. No fun. Ooh, yeah,
Nice.
Awesome.
I abbreviated it a tiny bit, but that's the song, you know.
And tempo change is where it's at. I got to talk about the whistle, too. I've been a whistle fan from Jealous Guy, John Lennon, to Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. So where'd you get that? You mentioned your dad, but that's some pretty good stuff.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, my dad's a really damn good whistler, and he can kind of do some bird calls, cardinals, chickadee, robin, random things, and like I was bored and started messing with that when I was a kid, and then when I was probably maybe 21, 22, I played a few songs for my grandma on his side, and she was like, "Man, men used to whistle. You should have heard your great granddad and like your great uncle something, la da 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 da." And they're like, they could whistle and do this vibrato, and you got that same vibrato thing that they could do. And I was just like, whoa, interesting. I would have not thought of it being like a multi-generational whistle thing, but apparently that's something folks that are on my dad's side of the family are really good at and have been for a while. So I don't know how much I inherited and what I got from my old man and what I got from just having a lot of time by myself, but that's probably my first instrument, if you don't count my teeth, which I can also kind of play that way. I don't know. You want to try that one out real quick?
Well, yeah.
All right. Is that audible? Can you hear it over the wall?
I can hear it.
Okay, cool.
It was awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I was bored and liked making noises, and that's kind of how it came about. But the whistling is not something ever meant for people to hear. I didn't wake up when I was 8 years old and I was like, I'm gonna learn to play country songs and whistle. It's just kind of like a weird reflex. But I'm glad people like it. I've always wondered if it's piercing. I apologize to the dogs in the room as often as I can, but it's fun stuff, I guess.
Oh, it all works together great. I love how you have the breaks in your voice when you're pronouncing and you just cut it off like that. It draws you in.
Well, it's taken some time, but I blame LimeWire and boredom for having me download as much Hank Williams Sr. as possible off of the internet when I was 16, 17. I couldn't stop trying to do that breaky sound, and that's been a long time coming and trying to get it reeled in. So I'm glad I've got it at a functional point at this point.
That's awesome. So what other actual music influences, like groups or bands that just really grabbed onto you? Like you said, it was later on for traditional country,
Mhm.
but so I'm assuming a lot of what you're growing up on was heavier.
Well,
Was there
it was a
actual
little of
bands?
both. When I was really young, a lot of the only country I heard was, getting driven home from school or something on the radio. Like, yeah, it was everywhere. Pop country is everywhere. So I heard a ton of radio country. Not all of it I loved, but a lot of my favorite classic rock songs that I would listen to with my dad would have been like, the Beatles doing Buck Owens, or Rolling Stones doing Dead Flowers, or Honky Tonk Woman. Stuff that like had this kind of like older country feel to it. And when I watched Mars Attacks as a kid, I don't know if y'all have seen Mars Attacks
Yeah.
with the heads
Oh yeah.
exploding. I got enamored with that song that I didn't know what it was, and I was too embarrassed to ask, but I was like, that weird siren song. And then when I got into stealing music off the internet, that's one of the first things I tracked down was Slim Whitman. And then it turns out that my family totally loves Slim Whitman, and that my grandpa would have me play the Indian Love Call for him whenever I visited. But like, I basically found classic country through this weird, sci-fi movie Black Hole, and then like discovered my family's affinity to it. But it wasn't really until I was a teenager that I started getting into the really heavy stuff. But it was kind of concurrent on the side, because I'm like listening to Woody Guthrie and everything that influenced Woody Guthrie when I'm 16. And I'm also listening to like Minor Threat. So it was like something in between. I could see some sort of commonality, but definitely the music I was playing was mostly the heavy stuff. But like, I think really once I left Arkansas a little bit in my early 20s, late teens, I got really into Arkansas old time music, the fiddle banjo stuff. And that's when I learned to play banjo. And that was my first stringed instrument after playing drums. And I was like, well, I think I need to dive in on this. So most of the last 10 years, I guess, I've spent really like enamored with local music and stuff that's sort of formative of newer country. Like, I know a lot of outlaw stuff, and I grew up on the radio country, but really my passion's been the source material stuff from the 20s and 30s and 40s. And there's an unbelievable amount of it out there. I'm still searching. I still can't find all of it. It's the amount of music that has been made is truly mind boggling.
Yeah,
Have you
for
gone
sure.
through Alan Lomax recordings then? All that stuff?
Totally.
Yeah.
There's an Alan Lomax Ozark one that's got Almeda Riddle in it, and she's one of my biggest vocal heroes. Like, got the high breaking, like kind of mountain voice, but the stuff she does is just haunting. But yeah, I really love all that source material. I can't get enough of it. And like I said, it's this bottomless well. You can always find more in
Right.
different parts of the country that have different endemic traditions, and it's just cool to see it as sort of this bigger picture. But that's just my nerdy thing, and like not everybody needs to do that. Probably just enjoy music.
Yeah. Well, we like to dive deep too here. So I noticed you were playing the mouth bow.
Totally.
I didn't know. Well, obviously it's on one of your tracks, but just to see you actually playing it on, I think it was Instagram. I might have found. I don't remember, but it was
Yeah,
just cool.
I just got a new one, so that's probably where it was.
Oh, okay. That's awesome, man. Um, so when you write a song, is it more guitar first or lyrical content first or some of both or?
For me, it's melodies. I'll be walking around, tripping over rocks or something, and suddenly this little, boodle-doop blip thing will pop up, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll fit that on some chords, or I'll whistle something, or just absently get a little melody stuck in my head. But usually I start playing a song with just like gibberish, and then I will come upon the point where it's like, okay, I think that gibberish chord progression is put together enough. I should make it a song. And I almost always write the song in one session and just sit down and fit it all together. Like, there's a few that have taken a couple tries, but really I try to just like time myself out to where it's like one session, one time, sitting down, picking a theme and fitting everything on top of it. But I'll have a lot of little phrases and commentary and just things I'm, mulling over are going to be spinning around up there anyway. So usually I've got like a toolbox of funny phrases or a funny phrase that a song's built around, something like that. You know what I mean? But my writing process is kind of haphazard. I haven't really been writing these types of songs or doing this long enough to have made a sort of observational transition from, I'm just writing like kind of simple for fun honky tonk songs like you're, Lonely Like Me, stuff like that, to stuff where I actually give a damn and like putting some effort into it. So it's like it takes a minute to get from I think like being a writer and knowing why you're writing, and I haven't really done that yet.
Yeah. Huh. Well,
One thing
everyone has their own way of doing it, so but it's working for you.
one
So
thing
far, so good, I guess.
we like to do is talk about album art. And
Oh yeah.
you've got some good album art. I'd like to know kind of where that came from, who made it. You got a broken guitar on one, a broken banjo on the other. What's happening there?
Well, that's my art. I'm really and truly, I think I'm more qualified and have been for longer parts of my life convinced I was just going to be an illustrator and a painter, do that with my free time. But yeah, I do all the album art and merch and stuff for the band. And really, I think I didn't want it to be that approachable and that cute and that easy on the eyes, but still like, to be recognizable imagery and kind of not take itself too seriously. So I think that was trying to fit with the general theme of the music is like, I care about this, but it's got to be a little bit zany and a little bit off, or it's not quite true to what the whole thing is. So yeah, I think people can tell that I've watched a lot of 90s cartoons though.
I could see that. Yeah, I noticed like the little characters on there they would draw, and of course one was an alligator. And me and Garrett come down to New Orleans every year. Well, just outside of Pontchartrain on Manchac Swamp. You ever been in that area?
Yeah, there's like there was a town, right? And there was a big flood, and the flood's gone now. That's the one, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time down in there, and just seeing that album art and all the little things. It's like, man, the Crawdad, of course, just all that cool stuff. And we go down there every year, so it's always fun to, reminisce about those times. Because here in the Midwest, we just don't have that kind of culture or feel,
Well, and I'm missing it right now. We're up in Arkansas, and it's definitely what I'm more accustomed to, having been raised here. But I miss New Orleans every day. And really, there's so much of South Louisiana in that country record, because you can hear all the country stuff coming out of New Orleans. It's got that kind of rhythm and blues, Southeast Louisiana backbeat to it. It's not really strictly country. It kind of rides this sort of R&B, primitive rock and roll country middle line. So, I mean, I think, again, New Orleans is all over that record, and I'm missing it right now, but it definitely feels good to be up where there's a few less mosquitoes. I am batting the bugs, but there's a few less than normal at least.
Yeah. You want to jam another one for us?
Sure, why not? I like the request style thing. What do you got in mind, I suppose?
I got one because I want to talk about it after. Honey, Let's Stay In.
Okay, sure.
Does that work?
Yeah. Let's do it. Night is burning low and my blood is pumping slow. Where do we begin? Well, honey, let's stay in. It's been too long, I know, since we danced to the rooster crows. Take one on the chin. Well, honey, let's stay in. I never dream of stopping you, walking out that door. I never dreamed of bumping you. We could stay and watch it go. put your little hand in mine. We'll stroll beneath the evening sky, New Orleans stars again. Well, honey, let's stay in. I never dream of stopping you, walking out that door. TV's what's grabbing you. We can stay in and watch it. Whoa, 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 whoa. Not just a money sin. I never no. Man, I can't ever remember that one. Oh, honey, 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 let's stay in. Though the bright lights often call us such one night off that floor. We even can't stop if you we can stay and dance and Here it is. It's getting good and late. All the other folks can't wait. They like to give you a spin. Honey, let's stay in. Honey, let's stay in. Honey, let's stay in. Honey, let's stay in.
Killer.
I had an ant on me that whole time.
That's hilarious. Now, for that song, obviously it's pretty appropriate for the times right now. Now, I noticed there you guys were asking for people to submit footage, right? You're going to make a collage for a music video, or how's that working?
So, Mike over at Western as Fuck was cool enough to offer this whole thing, and he was just like, yeah, I'll put together the promo video. I'll push it as much as I can. I'll try to get minor celebrities on it, and you do the same, and I'll put it together. And supposedly it's going to be done in the next few days. I'm not sure if this, I might be talking at school with this, but what he told me is that it should be done soon. So for all I know, by the time this is out, he could have hit me up again and it's going to happen. But I'm thinking pretty soon. But we got, all told, I think like 150 videos or something. It's pretty cool. Some friends of mine and a lot of total strangers. So it's I'm pretty stoked to see how that comes out.
I submitted one.
Oh, did you? Awesome.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I'll tell you what. At a certain point, he was just like, "Yeah, man, just give me the password and I'll check that email and like get all that for you." And I was like, "Oh, seriously? Fine, yeah." So my internet's been so spotty because between the few places we've been in Arkansas riding this out, I actually haven't seen more than 2 or 3 of them that they wouldn't load. So I was just like,
right.
You take the thing and you get them and you make a video of that, and I'll just be pleasantly surprised at the end. So as far as I know, they're all going to make it. But
Awesome.
yeah, that's all I got for you there. Sorry, it's kind of happening in secret, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, the clip I sent in, I saw it randomly, and I was like, I didn't know if there was a deadline, so I was like, I'm just going to make something real quirky, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling you earlier, I work at a taxidermy shop.
Yeah, hell yeah.
We have a log cabin scene inside, like a little museum. So I had a bunch of like coyote furs and stuff, and I draped them over me, and I walked into the cabin to the beat of the song. It's super awkward, but it sounded like in the description that's what you guys wanted.
Yeah, we wanted something that was like not really like, oh, this is wholesome and cool. More like, all right, well, I don't know how that person's handling this, but it may not be well.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm stoked on it.
He froze.
Oh, yeah, we got one freeze. Are we still good?
We're still good.
Cool.
See if he gets back on here. I'm gonna text him real quick.
It's not. Yeah, there's better ways to get frozen. That looks like a painful one.
You were you were itching your nose when you froze. Oh, hang on.
That's like the extreme. Oh, there he is.
Hello? What? Okay, we can do that. See ya. Somebody hit a transformer telephone pole outside of his house. He lost all power.
Are you kidding me?
It's all booting up. he said we can keep going and you can jump in. So one thing I want to ask you about is your Tiny Desk submission.
Mm-hmm.
So have they made the decision on that? I mean, I know that can be big for people if they hit it. Like Hobo Johnson, I guess, got on that train. Was it last year or the year before? And things have blown up. So what was the thought process in picking the song for that? And if you got picked, do you already have your lineup of 3 or 4 songs ready to go?
Well, it's kind of been a mystery to me. I just submitted it, and my friend told me to do it last year, and I kind of slept on the idea. And then I had kind of a weird feeling about things going towards this pandemic business, and I was just like, I should probably just do that. Let's just do it. So I hit up my friend Michelle Kowalski, and she's a great videographer. But her and I were going to do a whole elaborate music video of like my dog out on the levee, like escaping and just like being out in the clover and kind of like getting into mischief. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to happen. It's like, I think I might need to get out of here because I'm getting a little sketched out. My lungs collapsed in the past, so I don't really want to deal with this getting sick business. And so we were just like, screw it. Let's just knock it out, get it done in an afternoon and go for it. So instead of doing the music video for Too Old to Dream, we just did the Tiny Desk submission. But I have high hopes, but it's definitely not keeping me up at night. It's funny you asked, though, because my dad just asked as I was walking out here, and I was like, I honestly have no clue. I don't know when that's going to happen. But, yeah, I'm stoked that got done. It's a shame that it kind of is running up against all of the pandemic times, but fingers crossed, that'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure. Who shot Rather Low, and was that in New Orleans? Is that right?
Yeah, that's the guys over at Western as Fuck. Like I mentioned, the Honey Let's Stay In music video craftsmen. But they're a channel out of Wyoming. And I almost caught up with them last summer. My van was falling apart, and I'd been out on the road for 4 months and was kind of like, in this haggard, crazed condition. And me and the dog, Moose, were just like trying to get our way back to Arkansas. And I was like, hey, I'm coming through. We can do a video. And it didn't quite work out. And I'm so glad it didn't, because then, the first impression of them with me was actually just like being in New Orleans and doing that video and stuff. But that was the night of our CD release show, album release party at the Tigerman Den, which is like an old 19th century meeting house thing in the Bywater in New Orleans. But yeah, we had a big party there that night. Sam Doors played. My buddy Chris Acker played. It was a big night.
Great. That's the first thing Justin sent me, and I want to know who was the director, or who came up with the idea of just having you pop out into the hallway. So that's great, instead of just being there.
I know. And it's a pretty funny thing. He was just like, we were standing around out there, and I was wearing Crocs, and I was like, shit, I forgot to change into my slacks. I'd been like feverishly setting up for the show, like running around mile a minute, putting up PA systems and dragging in boxes of T-shirts. It'd just been a hellish day. So they're like, this is the only time we have to do it. We have like half an hour. Let's go. And I was like, okay, cool. And that was his only thing, was just like, yeah, just step out of the door, and doesn't matter if you got the Crocs on or not. And I was like, well, I'm just going to put on my loafers that I was going to be wearing with my dress pants anyway. So it wasn't supposed to be wearing like cuffed off jeans and loafers. It was, I just couldn't wear the Crocs. So it was a funny ass shoot, but I'm glad that happened when it did.
If you ain't crocking, you ain't rocking, Nick.
I know, for real. As you saw in that Too Old to Dream video, I personally subscribe to being a comfort punk. I think that's my aesthetic at the end of the day. So I'm all about sweatpants and Crocs and all that shit. It's totally fine by me.
For sure. So have you gotten to a point where you're traveling around a lot? I'm not really sure. So are you mainly based in New Orleans and playing out there, or what?
Well, I was kind of, to be perfectly honest, I just had a couple thousand views on YouTube and a review from a website or two, and I got my last stuff out. Like, I hadn't really made many inroads and felt like I kind of had my head above the water and stuff. So as of last summer traveling, I was playing the little bars and sleeping in my van in the parking lot, and booked the whole thing myself, and had a bunch of time off in nature. And I was playing really small fun shows, and it was kind of my ideal tour. It was the last big tour I did. It was 4 months straight this last summer, and I went sea to shining sea and got to see and do amazing things, and it felt really great. And then I was committed to the season in New Orleans, which a lot of people do is they tour all summer out of New Orleans, and then they come back for the season and play the dance shows and Mardi Gras and, Jazz Fest crowd and all that. Basically, like, was committed to town for at least that amount of time, and had my stuff booked for the spring and summer coming up, but didn't quite pan out, obviously. But I was going to be out all summer. I was supposed to go to Australia. Supposed to do a bunch of stuff, but it's all canceled. Everything up until the fall is canceled. So I was totally like self-funded, self-booked on the road by myself last summer, and then these videos have done well in the last 2 months or so, and it's kind of changed the calculus. But I think a lot of people I've talked to kind of figured I had my shit more together than I actually do. Like, I'm just very much fledgling album kind of guy, and this has all gotten a lot of attention, and I'm really grateful for it. But it's definitely like, I don't think people know how crappy the shows I usually play on the road are. It's like, I mean, not crappy. I played in walnut orchards last summer. I played on, private parties overlooking like the mountains and fog and stuff in the Pacific. And like, I got to see some amazing shit, but definitely I'm a one-man operation. So people have been asking for merch and booking contacts, and I'm like, you're talking to it. This is all me. I don't have any support network here, but I wish shows were happening again, but that's going to be in a bit.
Yeah. Looks like we got Justin coming back after somebody put out his power. Get a pole. What the heck?
There he is. Daddy's home.
Talked a little bit about touring last spring and summer and gigging in New Orleans and during the season. Some rather low stuff. So
good deal.
You're ready to go. We're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm ready. All right, we're
There
recording, right?
Yep.
Man, once you can get out and tour again, we need you here, like, soon as possible.
I need me everywhere too. Trust me. It's it feels unnatural sitting still this long.
Yeah.
The air is humid. The sun is out. I should be doing a lot more of this.
You come to town and jam.
Yes, please. Yeah, how you like Indianapolis?
It's not as bad as what people think living here in the middle of cornfields.
I thought Brown County, Indiana was one of the prettiest places I'd ever seen. That was it reminded me a lot of the Ozarks, kind of in the rolling hill country. But one time we played at I was in the Sean James band for a minute there a few years ago, like 5-6 years ago. I played harmonica for him on tour a few times, and we went and played in Indianapolis at a place called it was in the strip mall though, and it was the worst place. Like, it was like a really gnarly strip mall where we tried to get pizza at the Papa John's next door, and they're like, yeah, we just got robbed, we don't have any money, so you can't get pizza here. We're like famished, sleeping on the floor of this van, and we got into the venue, and the other band was like this crazy, like, kind of like sketchy macho dad hair metal.
Oh, wow.
And it was so much fun. But they had this song that I still sing with my buddy. It was like, drinking whiskey, singing hell yeah, man, I really love that stuff. It was so good. But I still remember that band, and that's, Indianapolis gave that to me, so y'all should be proud.
That's awesome.
We've got a couple good spots now. I mean, when we were younger, it seemed like a lot of people would skip over us. There's, a couple sketchy, hardcore places. But now there's an area of town called Fountain Square, and there's like 3 or 4 venues there that are smaller and cater to different artists, and it's pretty good. So
nice. Yeah, everywhere is on the up, or was on the up and up, I feel like, and I could go to any corner of the country and you can find cool places now. It's really nice that like that sort of that's gotten to be something accessible for people, because I was from a place that got passed up too, and just now people are coming through Arkansas and like stopping for once, and I'm like, yeah, it's not like you think. Things won't go wrong most of the time. Like, you should hang out. So it's cool to see that happening for everybody.
Man, this internet connection blows.
Yeah, it's been pretty funny because sometimes you just
so we can walk through it. You want to play one more before we sign out of here?
Sure. What you got from Request Land?
I think you should pick the last one. That way we all picked one.
Yeah, that's fair. Shit. Can I do covers right now? I've just got a few that I've been singing that are fun.
Yeah,
It's an old cover.
for sure.
Okay.
Oh, do I want to try to do that? Yeah, fuck it. So this is Fool Such As I. Oh, how about we tune the guitar, though? I tune because you care. It's a Fender.
Was this Hank Snow, Pool Such As I, or was somebody before that? What's the background?
I like the Slim Whitman version. We talked about Slim Whitman being sort of a vocal god of mine, as I think any sane person should. But yeah, he's got a version of this on a tape that I used to have, and I like collected tapes as young as 14, 15, and still have some of those. So like I've always been a big sucker for cassettes, and I don't know what specific version this came from, but this is the one I heard on that one. Pardon me if I'm sentimental when we say goodbye. Don't be angry with me should I cry. I'm a fool, but I love you, dear, until the day that I die. Now and then there's a fool such as I. Now and then there's a fool such as I am over you. You taught me how to love, and now you say that you are through. I'm a fool, but I love you, dear, till the day that I die. Now and then there's a fool such as I. Now and then there's a fool such as I am over you. You taught me how to love, and now you say that we are through. I'm a fool, but I love you, dear, till the day that I die. Now and then there's a fool such as I. Now and then there's a fool such as I.
Killer. Great version.
Sounded
Thank
good. Minus
Appreciate
the terrible computer audio, obviously that.
Oh, he froze.
But
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, y'all are so cool. You're freezing. I thought of that while I was playing.
Dang, you need to write 90s action movies.
I know, for
Take
real.
a chill pill.
I need some one-liners to deliver with a really straight face.
For sure. Well, Nick, we appreciate you joining us. You mentioned, you're the band, you're the roadie, the merch crew. So let our listeners know where they can find your stuff and support you.
Well, I'm fixing to go down to New Orleans and move out of my spot for the summer, but I'll be able to rescue all my merch. So that will be for sale. I'll have links up on Instagram and Facebook. I'm trying to get my website sorted out. If it's not sorted out, there'll be a big cartel. But I've got shirts, stickers, prints, CDs, cassette tapes, Partridge in a Pear Tree. I'm working on vinyl, but that's going to happen someday soon. But anyway, I got that stuff for now. And I would say if you really want to follow the band, Facebook and Instagram is your best choice because that's where I try to keep the most updates. But I'll have a way for y'all to buy stuff soon.
Nice. All right, man. Thanks for joining us, and I'm sure we'll chat.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll chat.
Future.
Yeah, there we got it. I love it.
Yes, let's go while we're ahead.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Later.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.